Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Tutelage, a guide to learner. Here, this is Sriparna. Hope you all are doing good. In my last session, we had discussed the chapter that is types of economics, most importantly, some regional and global economic grouping like European Union, Asian, G20, CERC, etc. So if you have missed my previous session, please go to my first comment and my description box where the channel's link is already provided. You will get each and every video in my channel. I have another channel also, and which is purely Bengali educational channel named as Tutelage, a guide to UGC NET aspirants, which deals with the syllabus of the UGC NET examination, and we will explain the both paper of UGC NET examination, that is the main paper and the general paper, but where my main paper is education. Okay, so please do subscribe to my both channel. The first one is Tutelage, a guide to learner, and second one is Tutelage, a guide to UGC NET aspirants. I hope both will really helpful to everyone. So today we are going to explain another new topic of economics, that is growth and development, and which is one of the most interesting topic of economics also. So let's start the session, and at first we have to check what topic we will discuss today. So let's move on the next slide. So here we can see the first concept or the first topic, that is concept of economic growth. The second one is the most important topic, that is the economic development. And now going to the third topic, that is growth versus development, and fourth one is also a most important topic, that is a sustainable development. Okay, so now start the session and go to the main slide. Now this is the definition of the economic growth. So let's see the definition. So economic growth is defined as the process basically, okay, and whereby the real per capita income of a country increases over a long period of time. So the main focus of the economic growth, that is increase in per capita income. Okay, so it has been defined in terms of national income aggregates, and everybody agrees that the necessary requirement for the economic growth is the increased output. Okay, increased output for output of final goods and services in the economy. And we have already known that total output is basically measured in terms of national income. Okay, so there are two important national income aggregates, namely the first one is the total national income and the second one is the per capita income. So at first we have to know what do you mean by a national income. So national income basically defined as the value of all final goods. Okay, value of all final goods and services produced in a country in a year. So final goods and services is one of the most important keywords in the definition of the national income. So national income can be expressed in terms of gross domestic product, which is called the GDP, or the gross national product, which is called the GNP. So at first we have to know what is the GDP and GNP. Okay, so GDP and GNP. Clear? So GDP is defined as the value of all final goods of final goods and services produced in a year in the domestic territory of a country. And on the other hand, GNP is defined as the value of final goods and services produced by the normal residents of the country. That is the basic differences between the GDP and GNP, and it basically differs from the GDP to the extent of the net factory income from abroad. I think this is clear. So, national income may be expressed in terms of GDP and GNP. However, of the two aggregates, GNP is more relevant from the viewpoint of the economic growth. So, now going to the second concept, that is the per capita income. So, per capita income is basically the average income, okay? Average income of the normal residents of a country in a particular year. So, it is the income per head of the population. So, per capita income implies income per head of population. Clear? So, I think the concept of per capita income is clear. So, now move on the previous topic, that is economic growth. So, what is the main thing about the economic growth? Economic growth is basically the process whereby the real per capita income increases over a long period of time, and this is the definition of the economic growth obviously, but it means increase in the real GDP, clear, and which implies increase in the value of output, income and the expenditure. So, main benefit of the economic growth is basically the higher living standards, and which implies the higher real incomes and the ability to devote more resources to areas like the healthcare and the education. For example, consumers may benefit from more job opportunities and the government can use the tax revenues to spend on the public services. So, now going to the next thing, that is the types of economic growth. So, there are two types of economic growth. The first one is the extensive, okay, extensive growth. So, at first we have to discuss the extensive one. So, what do you mean by a extensive? So, extensive means the quantitative increase of the use of one or more factors of production. So, extensive economic growth means quantitative increase of use of one or more factors of production. So, do you know, learner, what are the factors of production? Yes, obviously, land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship are the factors of production. So, extensive economic growth implies the quantitative increase of the use of factors of production. Okay, so now going to the second type, that is the intensive. Okay, so intensive economic growth. So, what do you mean by a intensive? Intensive means innovative type of economic growth. That means innovative type of economic growth. So, intensive economic growth is defined as the innovative type of economic growth, and that is called the intensive economic growth. I think this is clear. What are the types of the economic growth, extensive and the intensive, and what do you mean by a extensive and intensive one? So, I think this is clear. So, why the economic growth is important for the developing countries? Why? Basically, economic growth generates more job opportunities. Okay, so it generates job opportunities, it helps to create the employment generation, and which is one most crucial and which is most important in the developing countries. Okay, I think the economic growth is clear to everyone. So now going to the next topic, that is the economic development. This is the definition of the economic development. So economic development is a process whereby the real per capita income of a country increases over a long period of time, along with the reduction in the poverty, inequality and the unemployment. So we can see the concept of economic growth is included in the definition of the economic development. Okay, so economic development is basically a program policy that seeks to improve the economic well-being and the quality of life for a community. So improve economic development helps to improve the economic well-being and the quality of life for a community. So improving quality of life. Clear? So the basic aim of economic development, it helps to improve the material standard of living by raising the absolute level of the per capita income. So economic development is measured by a sustained increase in prosperity and the quality of life through innovation, lower transaction costs and the utilization of the capabilities towards the responsible production and the diffusion of the goods and services. I think the concept of economic development is clear to everyone. So now going to the next concept, that is the differences between the growth and development. And basically growth indicates the physical change only. Okay, which indicates a physical change. And now going to the economic development, it indicates not only the physical change but also the social psychological changes. So growth is basically economic growth is basically a narrow concept. Basically it increase in the height, weight, body size of a person, and on the other hand development indicates the whole growth process where a person can develop concerning the physical, mental, social, emotional and moral, etc. So economic development includes the all type of development of a person, like physical development, mental development, social, emotional, moral development. Okay, so now going to the second point, that is economic growth refers to more output. While the economic development implies both more output and changes in the socio-economic structure of the economy, that means the structural changes. Okay, so growth may involve not only more output resulting from the use of more inputs but also greater efficiency of the inputs. Development goes beyond these to include the changes in the composition of the output, allocation of the resources among different sectors like the agricultural sector, industrial sector and the various other structural changes. And now going to the third point, that is the economic growth involves increase in income. On the other hand, economic development involves non-economic indicators as well as the economic indicators. So learner, do you know what is the example of the economic indicator? Yes, income is the economic indicator. So income is the example of the economic indicator. So economic growth is defined strictly in terms of the economic indicator, and that is income. And economic development involves not only economic indicators such as income but also non-economic indicators such as literacy, provision of housing and the health services. I think this is clear. So now move on the next slide, where we can see the fourth point of the differences between the economic growth and economic development. So economic growth involves the quantitative changes. Okay, So economic growth is basically entirely a quantitative concept. There are various and on the other hand there are various qualitative dimensions in the economic development process, and that may absent in the growth of the economic growth. Okay, so economic growth is fully measurable, economic development is not fully measurable, because economic development involves the qualitative changes only. Clear? Now going to the fifth point, economic growth is the problem of the developed countries, and on the other hand, economic development relates to the problems faced by the present day's developing countries. And economic growth basically differs from the economic development in terms of the degree of involvement and intervention by the government also. So economic growth does not require much of government involvement and intervention. However, the economic development demands active involvement of the government, and that is the one of the most interesting differences between the growth and development. So now move on the next slide. So here we can see the quality of life. So what do you mean by a quality of life? So quality of life refers to the degree of economic well-being of the people. Clear? So what is the quality of life? Quality of life refers to the degree of economic well-being. So quality of life is defined as a degree to which an individual is the healthy, comfortable and able to participate in the life events or the enjoy life events. So it will help monitor progress in achieving the nation's health objectives. Okay, so according to the World Health Organization, so quality of life is basically is defined as an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture, value and systems in which they live, and in relation to their goals, expectations, standards and the concerns. I think what is the actual meaning of quality of life is clear to everyone. So now move on the next concept, that is a sustainable development. So now let's move. And this is the definition of the sustainable development. So the concept of sustainable development was introduced by the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987. So sustainability basically refers to the meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. So let's see the definition. So sustainable development may be defined as the pattern of development that permits the future generations to live at least as well as the current generation. Okay, so now going to the example of the sustainable development. So we consider building a new community in a previously underdeveloped area without destroying the ecosystem or the environment. This is called the sustainable development. So that means it refers to the meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. I think the sustainable development is clear to everyone, but we will explain it elaborately in my next session. So stay tuned. I will come again with an new session. So today we have discussed the economic development, economic growth and the differences between the economic growth and economic development. So we are done for the today's session. If you like my video, so please one like, one comment and one subscribe. So please do some support and subscribe to my channel for getting another new session. Keep commenting. Thank you all. Happy learning.